Hi, I'm Cedar Vickery.
I'm Jeremy Vickery.
And this is the behind the scenes of Core's visual effects. So for this couple of visual effects where I'm masking out the window, it was actually really difficult because it looks like there's a green screen, so it seems like it'd be super easy, but the green screen, we didn't get it big enough, so it doesn't cover the whole window spread. Most of this was hand done. And then I threw in some glass textures and a couple cracks and some dirt, and then I flipped the video to make reflections. And the hardest window shot was the one where the ship was already crashed, and out the window you could see some trees in the background. That one had a lot of camera shake, so there's tons of movement that I had to mask out. The other shots were a lot slower.
So I have a background in animation. So I did some sketches and came up with a look, or did a lot of research of a bunch of different images online from different movies, and came up with something that both Cedar and I were happy with for the design of the spaceship. I made 3D models in Maya of both ships, Grant's ship and the Mercenaries ship. And it was a really fun process to build. It's sad that they were in so short. We didn't want to, when Cedar and I were talking through ideas, he tried to keep the visual effects to a minimum. And we actually added more shots, kind of experimented more once we had something. Like, we spent all the time modeling and texturing this spaceship, so we might as well use it. But we want to show you here the models up close, and you can see all the detail that was put in. The challenge that I didn't think of, when we were on set, it's let's try a pan where the characters walk in front of this burned ship.
On set, I thought it was totally impossible, and I'm like, do we even get this shot? We should let's just throw it out, just do the tripod only one, because I knew we could do the tripod only one. But I'm glad eventually, because with the end result, I'm really glad that he advocated to still get that shot.
We just tried it and see if the camera could move, and I realized there was a lot of lens warp, so I couldn't just do a static background. I actually had to de-warp the lens in order to get the matte painting that I did. I did a single render and then matte painted and then put in fire and smoke and all these elements into it.
And I had to do the mask to cut out the characters in front of the ship so that, you don't see the ship in front, as you can see in the one little part. But that took a long time because I had to cut them out each frame and slowly move by and click another frame.
Quite proud of the result in the end, but it was a lot of work, and there was a lot of moments that we thought, this might not work. I might not have the skills to be able to pull this off, but in the end I think it's one of my favorite shots.
So in the film, whenever you see more than 2 of the Athian characters, with the camo and stuff, or 2 of the GCG characters, those kind of with the black armor and all that, we only ever got 2 outfits. Anytime there's more than 2 outfits, we actually did the video 4 different times in different positions to, fake it in camera. Kind of like taking a photo and then using scissors to cut that photo into pieces and then gluing it all back together. It's basically what I'm doing, but with video instead. And because you have to do those shots on a tripod, then I threw on a little bit of camera motion, so the camera just slightly moves just to help really sell that effect. And we actually, on set, because we knew we wanted a spaceship on this shot, we actually brought out a big light beam. So the light that hits the rims of the actors and kind of is on the ground, that's an actual practical light that we had on set. And then for this shot, I did a bunch of weird kind of cool rim with the black, and then some extra different little HUD elements. And then I also put a bulge warp so that it looks like it's kind of that warping of a lens. And then for any of the shots with the core in it, you can actually see the contraption that we used to hold the light in. It's this weird bit of foam, and it just looks really bad. So I, used just bright white light, added some glow, added a flare, and then I was just experimenting with stuff and threw in electric beam to really give it some life and volatility. For all of the nighttime shots, we shot it, during twilight, so we could do, kind of that day for night style of color grade. So I, just darkened the video first, then I threw on a kind of vignette to make the edges darker. And then some of the shots, there was kind of this sky in the background, so I basically did a process where I deleted the sky so it was darker, because it was pretty obvious on any of those shots. And then the shots where they're firing guns, to really help sell that kind of it's really dark out, I added in glows where I went around oh, the gun, where would the light bounce and hit if this was an actual light source? And then I went in and I basically increased the brightness on the edges of the face, changed maybe the color to blue or on the GCG laser weapons. So that way you kind of get oh, the gun on the side, you get a warm glow on the side of the face and the nearby actor, a bit on the ground, a bit on that tree. all that kind of stuff to help really sell the effect that these, you know, weapons produce a lot of light. I really like seeing just the visual effects layers with like the blasts and all of that, and not the actual video layer, which I think is cool to kind of see what did I actually do for the glows and things like that. And then this is just a series of just some of the first showing off the temporary version, because as we were trying to edit the film to figure out the flow and how it edits, we threw in some just simple visual effects, temporary stuff, and then we went back and, you know, finally rendered it, because rendering takes hours and hours and hours, like sometimes even days to render a single shot. So we did some temporary stuff. At one point we had like clips from like Star Wars and other big series where we just ripped them away from those big series and threw those in just to say like there's gonna be a spaceship shot here, but don't know what it is, and then we went back and did our own temporary stuff. So this is some of the stuff. It's pretty funny, particularly my really early animation of the turret where both the model was really simple, and then I just basically did an opacity switch between the two positions. I really like that. Anyhow, that's a little brief visualization of what we did for the visual effects. Thanks for watching.